Listen, y'all, stop what you're doing because Atlanta just imploded, and no, it's not love and hip-hop this time. It's messier, it's bloodier, and it's dripping straight from Tamar Braxton's Instagram story. Picture this. You wake up, check your phone, and boom. Tamar claims she opened her eyes in a pool of blood with 4 teeth missing and a nose cracked like a sidewalk in July. But here's the gag. Instead of calling 911 or her mama, she pressed post. Yes, post. And just like that, the blogs lit up, hashtags caught fire, and the streets whispered one name like it was Voldemort. Funky. Dineva. But here's the question we're asking tonight. Was this a tragedy, a PR stunt, or the biggest scam since Fyre Festival? Because Funky says he ain't guilty. He ain't drugged nobody, and he's tired of being Tamar's scapegoat. Meanwhile, Tamar's dropping apologies faker than a Kardashian's first marriage, deleting posts, unfollowing, and then coming back with subliminals like she's Tupac with a wig. So buckle up. We're not just talking teeth, blood, and Instagram shade. We're talking betrayal, fake friends, sleepwalking conspiracies, and an apology so hollow you could whistle through it. Welcome to the mess, because this one's about to get ugly. Now listen closely, because what I am about to tell you is not your everyday Instagram drama, but the kind of spectacle that could make even the most jaded gossip blogger choke on their morning coffee, because at the center of this storm you have 2 names, Tamar Braxton and Funky. Dineva. And when those 2 names collide, the result is chaos, confusion, and a flood of content that the internet devours, like it is free samples at Costco. And the madness began with one single Instagram story, posted in the dead of night, a story so vague and so dramatic that it sent shockwaves from Atlanta to Los Angeles. Tamar claimed she woke up in a pool of blood, 4 teeth missing nose, fractured memory gone blank, and instead of dialing 911 or calling her sister, or even just quietly, recovering in peace, she did what Tamar always does. She pressed post and let the entire internet in on her midnight horror show. And that one post was like dropping a match into gasoline, because instantly the blogs lit up, the hashtags erupted, and the finger-pointing began with one name rising to the top of the suspect list. Funky Dineva people in the comments accused him of everything under the sun, slipping her something hurting her. Covering up secrets, the whispers got louder until they became shouts. And suddenly Funky was trending, not for his shady commentary or hilarious wigs, but for being the alleged villain in Tamar's bloody mystery. And that is where the story really gets wild, because Funky was blindsided. Imagine waking up to find yourself accused of drugging a woman you considered a friend. Imagine scrolling through Twitter and seeing thread after thread painting you as the boogeyman when you know you were nowhere near the scene. That is the nightmare Funky found himself in, and to make matters worse, Tamar stayed silent. She offered no clarification, no denial, no simple statement that could have cleared the air in 2 seconds. All she had to do was say, "Funky did not do this to me," but instead, she vanished into vague captions and half-truths, and that silence screamed louder than any words, and Funky was left to drown in the sea of speculation, while Tamar's team scrambled behind the scenes calling him nonstop, begging him to keep quiet. Q, please, be the bigger person. Q, let it go. Q, what do we have to do? And Funky's response was sharp and simple. Why are you talking to me? Talk to her, because the truth was clear. Only Tamar could fix what Tamar had started, but Tamar did not fix it. Not right. Away, at least. And so Funky simmered under the weight of accusations that threatened his reputation, his livelihood, and his sanity. The internet does not forgive easily. And when you are accused of something as serious as harming a woman, silence becomes the loudest verdict, and Funky was desperate for the noise to stop eventually, after days of pressure. Tamar finally issued what looked like an apology, a brief Instagram note where she said she loved Funky and wished she had cleared his name sooner, claiming she was recovering and unaware of the chaos swirling online, and at first it seemed like the storm had calmed. Funky accepted the post, not because it felt genuine, but because it was at least something, a breadcrumb of clarity. For the fans, a line in the sand that could stop the dragging, and Funky even admitted he was willing to give grace, thinking maybe Tamar truly had been too weak, too hurt, too confused to speak up immediately. He thought time would smooth the rough edges. He thought eventually they could laugh about the madness and move on. But Funky underestimated Tamar because instead of letting the apology close the chapter, she reopened the book and scribbled all over the margins with cryptic captions, subliminal posts and shady one-liners that made it seem like she was mocking the entire ordeal. She dropped lines like, "The rabbit got the pow-pow," and "My voice is my PR stunt." And though those phrases could have been about anyone, Funky knew exactly who they were aimed at, and that was when his patience snapped. Because in his eyes, Tamar had not only failed to protect him when it mattered, she was now doubling down, turning her so-called apology into a joke and dragging him back into the circus all over again. He felt betrayed. He felt used. He felt like Tamar enjoyed the speculation and the drama more than she valued their friendship. And so Funky went live again, and this time he was not holding back. He dragged Tamar from top to bottom, accusing her of loving the attention, of thriving on sympathy, of manufacturing chaos for clout and streams. He pointed out the hypocrisy. Tamar claimed to be too weak to type a statement clearing his name, but somehow she was strong enough to post. Subliminals dropped new music videos and clap back at imaginary haters and to Funky that said everything it said. Her silence had not been about weakness. It had been about strategy. And in the court of public opinion, strategy looks a lot like manipulation. The fans saw it too. Some called Tamar messy and accused her of faking peace. Others defended her, saying she owed nobody an explanation. But the damage was done because the apology that was supposed to bring calm had only poured more gasoline on the fire, and Funky was left standing in the flames with no choice but to fight back harder. And as the days rolled on, the feud grew sharper, with Tamar dropping more cryptics and Funky monetizing every single one, turning her shade into his payday, with a grin that said, "You are going to pay me for my pain." And that was not just a catchphrase. It was a promise that every messy move Tamar made would become his next viral commentary. Every shady caption would finance his next Miami trip, and every vague post would fund his Range Rover, because if Tamar wanted to play games, Funky was more than ready to play harder and nastier until she either stopped or burned. Funky had already made it clear that he was not going to sit in silence and let Tamar's subliminals skate by unchecked, because in his mind this was no longer just about a messy Instagram story. It was about respect, dignity, and the principle of not being used as collateral damage for somebody else's drama. And that is when the story picked up new fuel, because out of nowhere, a voice of authority entered the chat. A cosmetic dentist from Miami named Dr. Amira, who revealed that yes, Tamar had real injuries, fractured teeth, a broken septum, and even oral surgery to stabilize the damage. And suddenly the narrative shifted. People who had been dismissing Tamar's pool of blood story as a stunt now had to reckon with medical confirmation that something had indeed happened. But here's the twist: instead of putting the rumors to rest, the revelation only made the drama worse, because if Tamar had really suffered those injuries, why had she been so vague? Why had she not immediately cleared Funky's name? Why had she chosen Instagram posts over private healing? Questions piled up, and Funky seized on them with glee, because to him, the issue was never whether Tamar had been hurt. The issue was how she handled it, and how her silence cost him his peace, his reputation, and his credibility. And now, with a doctor's confirmation backing her up, Tamar decided to add more smoke to the fire, posting cryptic captions that sounded like riddles from a messy fortune cookie. "My voice is my PR stunt. The rabbit got the pow-pow. Did all that hating and gossiping about me. Still did not stop nothing." And every fan who read those lines could connect the dots straight back to Funky and the tension between them. And if Tamar thought she was being slick, Funky made sure the world saw right through it, going live with his trademark sarcasm and slicing commentary, tearing into her captions, mocking her injuries, and making jokes that were cruel but effective, because they cut through the sympathy and made the fans question the narrative. He asked whether her pool of blood was Olympic-sized or just the spit we see when we brush our teeth. He called her a toothless muppet and said her so-called near-death experience had not left her grateful, but had instead left her thirsty for more attention. And while his words were brutal, they resonated with an audience already skeptical of Tamar's motives, and the divide online grew sharper. Some said Funky had gone too far, mocking a woman's trauma. Others argued Tamar brought it on herself with her shady posts and refusal to be clear. But either way, the feud had become the hottest storyline in Atlanta, hotter than any reality show script, because it was real, unfiltered, and unraveling in front of everyone. Tamar, for her part, tried to play coy, pretending to be focused on healing, posting vague notes like "I mind, mine, and heal," but her actions deleting posts, unfollowing Funky, and then doubling back with more shade only made her apology look faker by the day. And Funky pounced on it, declaring that every subliminal she posted was another payday for him. Every shady caption was another $5,000 in his pocket. He told his viewers that Tamar was financing his vacations, his car payments, his entire lifestyle simply by trying to throw shade, and that petty flip of narrative made the internet howl, because what Tamar thought would silence him only fueled him further. And then came the ultimatum. Funky laid out the rules of engagement as if drafting a contract. You do not post nothing. I do not post nothing. No subliminals. No cryptic Bible verses about God elevating you. No vague talk about devils or haters. If you post, I post, period. And the internet ate it up the way Funky delivered it, like a preacher sermonizing his pain, repeating over and over, "You are going to pay me for my pain," until it became a catchphrase that took on a life of its own. Memes flooded Twitter, TikTok skits reenacted the feud with wigs and fake blood, and the more people laughed, the more Tamar's credibility crumbled, because while Funky was turning pain into profit, she was losing ground in the public eye. And the scariest part was when Funky hinted that he was still holding back. He said, "Even in this moment, I am trying to protect you medically and romantically, but you keep playing, and this ain't what you want." And that one word, romantically, sent fans into a frenzy. What did he know about Tamar's love life? Who was he protecting her from? What tea was he threatening to spill? And Tamar's sudden silence spoke volumes, because while she could clap back with cryptic captions before now, she disappeared, deleting stories, blocking Funky, and retreating into quiet as if afraid of what he might reveal. The tension thickened because everyone knew Funky had more ammunition and he was not afraid to use it. He made it clear that Tamar might play with everybody else, but she was not going to play with him, because he was just as crazy, just as unstable, and just as willing to go low. If she wanted a war, he would give her one. And the fans sat back with popcorn waiting for the next move, because by now the feud was not about a bloody night or broken teeth. It was about egos, pride, reputations, and the refusal to back down. Tamar wanted to control her narrative, Funky wanted to protect his name, and the two goals were fundamentally incompatible, and that is what made the entire thing so addictive to watch. Neither was willing to surrender. Both were willing to escalate, and the internet became their stage as each new post and live stream pulled more viewers, more clicks, more debate, and more speculation with no end in sight. By the time the feud reached its boiling point, it was no longer about who had been injured or who had posted what. It had transformed into a full-blown battle of survival in the court of public opinion, because Tamar wanted the world to see her as a victim who had survived a mysterious near-death experience, while Funky wanted the world to see him as an innocent man, unfairly dragged into chaos, and both of them were willing to fight tooth and nail to control the story. Tamar kept leaning into vagueness, hinting that dark forces and jealous enemies were circling her while avoiding naming Funky directly. And Funky kept firing back with blunt lives where he mocked her choice to broadcast her injuries to the internet before even speaking to a doctor or a friend. He painted her as addicted to attention, as someone who lived off sympathy the way other people lived off oxygen. And every time Tamar dropped another cryptic message, he returned with a live sharper than the last, because to him the math was simple: if she kept the mess alive, then so would he. And in that cycle, the feud became self-sustaining. Tamar claimed she wanted peace, but her actions showed otherwise, and Funky claimed he wanted his name cleared. But his actions made it obvious he also enjoyed the clicks, the memes, and the cash flow that poured in every time he opened his mouth, and the audience fueled it. Screenshotting every shade post, clipping every live, turning their feud into digital currency that spread across Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram like wildfire. The situation grew darker when Funky repeated that infamous line, "You going to pay me for my pain," over and over like a mantra. Not just because of what Tamar had put him through, but because he had found a way to flip her attacks into income. Every shady post was a new video, every subliminal a new check. And he made it clear that Tamar had underestimated him, because while she was trying to play coy, he was playing business, making her less profitable for himself. And what made people lean in even further was the feeling that Funky still had cards he had not played. He kept hinting at secrets about Tamar's private life, things he could reveal if pushed too far, and that hint of danger, that lingering possibility that he could blow the lid off her relationships or her recovery, gave the feud a suspense that kept everyone watching. Tamar went quiet after that, pulling back from the subliminals, deleting and blocking as if she knew that one wrong move could make Funky unleash the information he was dangling like bait. But by then the silence did not look like grace. It looked like guilt. It looked like fear. And the audience interpreted it as confirmation that Tamar had something to hide. Funky, meanwhile, positioned himself as the victor. Not only had he defended his name, he had turned her shade into his own empire of content. And he told his viewers that this was not just drama. This was about teaching Tamar a lesson that you cannot casually ruin someone else's reputation and then expect them to roll over and let it slide. He drew a line in the sand, promising that as long as she respected the rules, as long as she stayed quiet and stopped playing games, he would let the feud die. But if she ever tried to get slick again, if she ever posted another subliminal aimed his way, he was ready to go live, sharper, nastier, and more devastating than before. And the internet believed him because throughout the entire saga, Funky had shown he was not afraid to get ugly, and Tamar had shown that she was not strong enough to withstand his fire. The feud ended not with reconciliation, not with clarity, but with tension. Thick enough to choke on because Tamar retreated into silence and Funky stood tall, declaring that he had won. But the questions lingered. What really happened that night? How did Tamar end up in a pool of blood? Why did she choose to post instead of protect her friend? And what secrets? Was Funky still holding back? The mystery remained unsolved. The feud remained unresolved. And the only thing clear was that the internet had been given a show, messier, louder, and more scandalous than any scripted reality series could ever provide. And as the dust settled, people were left wondering whether this was truly the end or just the calm before Funky decided to let his tongue loose one more time. So here we are at the end of this wild roller coaster, where broken teeth, cryptic captions, and late-night Instagram stories collided with savage clapbacks, shady lives, and a feud so messy it could only belong to Tamar Braxton and Funky Dineva. But the question is, what do you think really happened? Was Tamar the victim of a bizarre accident, or was this all a carefully timed stunt designed to whip up sympathy and streams? And more importantly, was Funky right to clap back as hard as he did? Or did he cross a line mocking someone's medical trauma just to prove his point? Because let's be real, this drama has given us everything. A mystery, a villain, a victim, a doctor's report, subliminals, insults, memes, even ultimatums, and yet we are still no closer to the truth. The only thing we know for sure is that both sides refused to back down, and the internet got a front row seat to the chaos. So drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you side with Tamar? Do you ride with Funky? Or do you think both of them are guilty of loving the spotlight more than the truth? And if you want more messy breakdowns like this, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell because this story might be on pause. But trust me, the next round of drama is only one shady post away.